I'm so lonesome I could cry.
Let me go down and get him.
I'm a communicator. I'm a breakthrough kind of guy.
Your mom's on the phone. I don't have a mom. You may have a mom. I have a mother.
They've only just met.
I'm a friend of your mother's. I came to get you to bring you home.
And already, they get along like family.
I'm not going anywhere with you.
What do you like to do for fun? Oh, you like to wiggle and grunge? Me too.
So you and Doyle are getting along well.
He's not a bad kid. We're getting along just great.
Come on, give it to me, Pipsqueak.
We're taking our time. We're seeing the country. And as Doyle himself said, nothing beats traveling the highways and byways.
Okay, sugar, what'll it be? What won't make me vomit? Give me the keys.
This isn't working out. We're not masters of the highway. We were robbed by homebound hookers.
Only because you fell asleep and I got excited.
You did?
I know where Dutch and Doyle are staying tonight.
Knowing Doyle, it'll be first class.
20th Century Fox presents the story of a boy
I got a deck of racy playing cards.
who lost the child in himself and the man who helped him find it.
Is that your most pathetic look? That's not going to get us a ride. This is pathetic. Try it. See, I'm not such a bad guy, huh?
Dutch,
You're like a great big demented child.
Hello, hello, I'm Katie, and welcome to Retromade, your pop culture rewind. Today we're going to head back to 1991 to revisit Dutch. And this is to get us in the mood for Thanksgiving. And I am solo again today because guess what, guys? Dutch is not readily available to stream either. And this poor guest who will come on for another episode, I promise you will hear from him. But he picked two in a row that just so happened to not have streaming capabilities for these movies. So, yes, I watched Dutch from my library again. And this time it didn't skip on me. So I got to watch the whole movie. I had seen it before though, but I didn't really remember a lot of it. So you're stuck with me. If you're new to Retromade, welcome. We like to go back to the 80s and 90s in these themed seasons. We have a little time capsule setting the stage in the form of trivia questions this season. And we're heading through the John Hughes catalog. So Dutch is what we're covering today. If you have come to Retromade via the Director's Chair Network, welcome. Again, like I said, I'm glad to have you here. You can check out all the other John Hughes movies as well as go back to the back catalog from season 1 where I covered Kurt Russell and Patrick Swayze, the ultimate everyman. And if you have not checked out the Director's Chair Network and you're listening to this Retromade episode, I would highly encourage you to do so. It's very varied, which is great. Lots of different directors, and you'll hear different voices, different hosts covering different directors. So you might find some that you really connect with. Let's see, some of the directors over there. We've got Michael Mann, we've got Ed Zwick. There was a Brian De Palma. I think that's concluded. There, Edgar Wright. I know I am missing some just off the top of my head, but there's a lot of fun directors, lots of different movies. So head on over to the Director's Chair Network to check out a lot of different movies covered by some super fun hosts. So check that out. Now, have you rated or reviewed Retromade yet on your podcast app that you're listening to this on? Right now, go do that. Right now, this is your reminder. I would love a review, but if you only have a few seconds, a rating would also be sufficient at this time. Or go to YouTube too. Make sure that you subscribe to the Retromade podcast channel. And if you're already over on YouTube, make sure that you like and comment on some of these episodes. I certainly appreciate it. Also, you can send me an email to tell me what you think about what you like, what you want more of, what you want less of, just whatever your thoughts are. I ask a lot of questions to you as an audience, especially on these solo episodes that I don't have a guest. So would love to hear some feedback, retromadepodcast@gmail.com. All right. Without further ado, let's open the time capsule from 1991, you guys. If you feel like we've covered 91 before, you are correct. We have. Curly Sue, as well as Career Opportunities, were both from 1991 on this John Hughes season. So I am going to cherry pick the categories that we did not land on when we spun the time capsule wheel for those 2 episodes. Let's do maybe commercial countdown. Okay, you guys, this one is a soda brand launched a wildly successful commercial featuring a supermodel who steps out of a red Lamborghini to grab a drink from a vending machine, turning the heads of 2 young boys. What was the soda brand and who was the supermodel? I can picture her outfit, and that hair is coming back from the 90s, that big blown out hair. It's Cindy Crawford and it's Pepsi. That's correct. Here's a soap brand ran commercials featuring the slogan, "Aren't you glad you use blank? Don't you wish everybody did?" Continuing a campaign that had started in the 80s, but remained one of the most recognizable ad lines of the year. This is in 91. What was this soap brand, you guys? Aren't you glad you use blank? It's Dial soap. That is the correct answer. Okay, the stars and scandals are interesting. Let's see. Okay. In 91, what actor shocked fans when he accidentally shot himself in the leg while filming? The movie's going to give it away. The Doors, later blaming the incident on staying in character as Jim Morrison. Val Kilmer. Now, it does say here this was widely rumored at the time, but Kilmer later clarified that it was dramatized for effect. But this story still made the rounds in 1991. Which rap artist had his public image scrutinized in 91 after being arrested for allegedly beating a parking lot attendant in Hollywood, leading to a high-profile court appearance? I actually don't think I remember this. It is Vanilla Ice, a.k.a. Robert Van Winkle. Here is a frequent tabloid person in 91. I guess we'll call him an action star, for lack of a better phrase. He was arrested after a bizarre incident at a Tucson bar involving verbal threats and possession of a controlled substance just months after his film. If I name the film, it will give it away. But one of his films had just hit theaters. Is this ringing a bell with anybody? If not, the film is out for justice. Who is this action star in heavy quotations, says Katie? Steven Seagal. Yep. And this is just one of many, but this one was particularly from 91. This dude was frequently in the tabloids that year, I guess, due to off-screen behavior and legal drama. Yes, we were glad to be rid of the Seagal. Let's see, back in the headlines. These are some easy ones, I think. In December, this historic political entity officially dissolved, making the end of an era and shifting global geopolitics. What was it? The historic political entity that you are looking for? Yes, the Soviet Union officially dissolved in December of 1991. Shit takes a while. All right. In early 91, a coalition of countries led by the U.S. launched Operation Desert Storm to liberate this nation after its invasion of a neighboring country. Name the invaded country. Which country was invaded? Kuwait. Who remembers that? Operation Desert Storm, 91, man. And then which South African political leader was released from prison in 91, paving the way for the end of apartheid and eventual election as president? Of course, it's Nelson Mandela. That was the giveaway. Let's see. Is there anything else? Ooh, the boombox bangers. You guys, there's some good ones. 91. Billboard Top 5 charts. Number 1, hit from the 91 film Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, starring Kevin Costner, was a massive power ballad sung by Bryan Adams. What was the name of this song? Easy, easy, easy. Everything I do it for you. It is so good, but who got so sick of it? Yeah, it's like I almost never hear it anymore, even on like throwback channels, because it got played out. In 91, this is the number 2 song. Martha Wash. Who's Martha Wash? Maybe, interesting. Martha Wash famously provided the powerful uncredited vocals for the chorus of which hit song by CNC Music Factory? What was the name of this song? It looks like there was some drama, maybe. Martha Wash versus CNC Music Factory. She won lawsuits against groups like that for failing to provide vocal credits. Okay, so yes, it says uncredited vocals. So there must have been a lawsuit. This must have happened to her a few times and by CNC Music Factory. Oh no, you guys. Also, I don't even know who Martha Wash is. But it is Gonna Make You Sweat, in parentheses, Everybody Dance Now. That was the number 2 song in 91. It is a really good song. One of my favorites from back in the day has the number 3 song, Paula Abdul. And there's a famous actor who's in the video. Inspiration from a 1955 film, Rebel Without a Cause. That was, I almost want to say it was black and white too, this video. What was the name of the song? Keanu Reeves is the actor I was referring to. I don't know if that is helping you come to the answer. That is Rush, 91. All right, number 4, the R&B group Color Me Bad. Oh, I loved them back in the day for all of their 2 songs that they had. But this one was a hit, originally featured on the soundtrack for the crime drama New Jack City. I don't think I knew that. What was the name of this song? I Want to Sex You Up, and it is so good. I can still picture myself like listening to the tape in a boombox in a friend's car because the tape deck must have broken or something in her car. Anyway, we're riding around town with the boombox, jamming to I Want to Sex You Up by Color Me Bad.
Just let me hold you close to me, 'cause I've been dying for you, girl, to make love to me. Girl, you make me feel real good. We can do it till we both wake up.
All right, the last one I don't think I will get. It wouldn't just come to me. But here's your clue, everyone. Which 1991 freestyle ballad by artist Timmy T was written and produced by him after breaking up with a girlfriend and went on to become a number 1 hit on the Billboard Hot 100. One More Try by Timmy T. Is that a one-hit wonder? This dude does not look familiar to me.
One more try. I didn't know how much I loved you. One more try. Let me put my arms around you.
Okay, there you go. There is your top 5 Billboard hits from 1991. Also, that concludes this portion of the Time Capsule on Retromade. All right, let's get into Dutch from 1991. It is PG. It was released in the summer, but it is a Thanksgiving movie, or at least it's set over Thanksgiving. And it has a 6.5 on IMDb. This is on the John Hughes season, and as we've covered a number of times now, he did not direct this. Peter Faiman directed this. Does anyone know Peter Faiman? And Faiman is Faiman. He's Australian. And he's also known for Crocodile Dundee. Shocking. But I love that movie. I love that. I mean, so that's like one of my favorite 80s movies. And also The Dawn Lane Show. And I didn't know what this is, but any of you Aussies will probably. It was a talk show that ran from 75 to 82. So Peter Faiman, that's who he is. But yes, of course, our writer is John Hughes. And I did learn that at one point he was considering directing it, but then he reconsidered because of its similarities to his other hit film, Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, which is another Thanksgiving movie. It revolved around two characters who at first really don't like each other and go on a road trip to get back to Chicago after having a bunch of setbacks, which included a destroyed, burnt car, being robbed, etc., with a happy resolution. So in essence, this film is a sequel or remake to that film, minus the Trains and Planes. That is interesting. We will be covering Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. That's probably going to be the next episode. So I'll have to give that a rewatch. I don't know it by heart, but it's interesting because when I was rewatching Dutch last week, that is not the movie that came to mind. And I will get into what movie came to mind immediately once I started watching this. And I am so curious who else had the same thought. You will have to email me. So if it has been a minute or two since you've seen Dutch, the description is: to get to know his girlfriend's son, a working class good guy volunteers to pick him up from his prep school, only to learn that he isn't the nicest young man. So who are cast of characters here? The bratty kid is Ethan Embry. He plays Doyle Standish. And I will say at this time, he wasn't going by Ethan Embry. He was going by Ethan Randall. He's in a lot of things. I most recently know him from, he plays one of either Grace or Frankie's kids on the show Grace and Frankie. That's actually a really quite good show. But also Empire Records, anyone? Ethan Embry. He's in a lot of things. And then, of course, Ed O'Neill plays Dutch Dooley. Ethan Embry's, so the kid, I would say he's like junior high age. It doesn't explicitly say, I don't think. But so he plays Doyle Standish. And he's the bratty kid that is in a like out of town boarding school. And Dutch is going to go pick him up and do this road trip back to Chicago for Thanksgiving. Dutch Dooley is Ed O'Neill. Love Ed O'Neill. Everyone knows him probably best from playing Al Bundy, right? Married with Children, Al Bundy. And then he also, actually, I don't know, is Modern Family still on? I doubt it. But anyway, Modern Family, he's in that as well. So I love Ed O'Neill. I find him very charming in everything he does. So I welcomed rewatching this movie partially because of him. Now, the girlfriend, Doyle's mother and Dutch's girlfriend, is played by JoBeth Williams. She wasn't super familiar to me, but she probably is to a number of you. She was nominated for an Oscar for a short film, On Hope. I'm unfamiliar with this, but hey, you know, nominated for an Oscar. And she's probably most known for Poltergeist. Also The Big Chill, Kramer versus Kramer, and all of you Stopper My Mom Will Shoot fans out there. I believe she play the love interest? Did she play Sly's love interest in that? So that is JoBeth Williams. And then we just recently talked about Christopher McDonald because he was in the Flubber episode. He plays kind of the dickish sort of antagonist. We kind of talked about on that episode. Is there an antagonist? You know, is there one? Question mark. So he must have a good working relationship with Hughes because I feel like there might even be a third one that I can't think of that he's in. But he plays the dad. So the ex-husband and this bratty kid's dad, Reed Standish. And then we have these two young women that are in like a sports car that we'll talk about later. I am not a car person. I could recognize that it was either a Camaro or a Trans Am or Firebird, one of those cars. So there's two young women that we find out they call themselves call girls, prostitutes, and strippers, like all three of those things. So the one who drives the car, her name apparently is Hallie, even though it's not said in the movie. And then the passenger, her friend, her character's name is Brock, and she is mentioned. But these two ladies are played by, so Brock is Ari Myers, and she did look familiar to me. She's the more innocent one. She played one of the kids on Kate and Allie, and that does track. Now that I see that, I can see it. And her very first role was playing Al Pacino's stepdaughter on Author. And then, so the other one, the more street smart of these ladies is Hallie, and she's played by Elizabeth Daly, but I think her stage name is E.G. Daly. And she is an actress and a singer, and she's got a lot of voice work, so she's kind of famous in that world. So classics like Dottie in Pee-wee's Big Adventure to Valley Girl. And when I saw her, I couldn't place her. I was like, oh my God, she's very specific. Both the combination of her look and her voice are very specific. And I was like, God, I know I've seen her. I just can't place it. She is in the episode of Smelly Cat. Remember on Friends when Phoebe sings Smelly Cat? And she must have been like old partners with Phoebe, where Phoebe teaches her to play on the guitar Smelly Cat. And she's kind of trying to convince Phoebe to, I think she's like, oh, you could really use this. You could sell it. It could be for cat litter or whatnot. And Phoebe's like, no. She's like, don't ruin it with capitalism. And then I think this gal screws Phoebe over again. So anyway, that's her.
Smelly cat, what are they feeding you? Smelly cat, it's not your fault.
Wow, that's great.
Oh, yeah?
You could totally sell this. It'd be perfect for like a kitty litter campaign.
A jingle? No.
Why not? You make a ton of money.
Okay, well, if I was in this for the money, I would be a millionaire by now,
She is also the voice of Tommy Pickles from Rugrats, Buttercup from the Powerpuff Girls, Babe from Babe, Pig in the City, Young Mumble from the Academy Award-winning Happy Feet. She does have a very interesting voice. So that is E.G. Daly playing a prostitute in Dutch. All right, we have a homeless woman that talks to Doyle when they're all like kind of trying to sleep, and she has a little bit of a bigger part in it in a little while. And the woman who plays her is L. Scott Caldwell. She looks very familiar, and she went on later to play Rose in the TV show Lost, as well as a lot of single episodes of TV. She had a recurring role in Judging Amy and The Secret Life of the American Teenager. Now, she's a main character on a new-ish Apple Plus TV show with Vince Vaughn called Bad Monkey. I have not seen this, but be on the lookout for L. Scott Caldwell in that. And then one more person that we should talk about, partially just because her background is kind of interesting. She's credited as Gritzy, but I don't know if we ever know her name in the movie, but that's the character's name. And she's played by Kathleen Freeman, and her parents were vaudevillians. So she made her debut at age 2 in their act. And she also did a lot of voice work, including in, there's a connection with Ed O'Neill, in Married with Children, where she was the voice of Peg's monstrous but never seen mother. You guys remember those episodes? And then she was also memorable as Sister Mary Stigmata, the Penguin, Dan Aykroyd and John Belushi's nemesis in The Blues Brothers from 1980. That is Kathleen Freeman. The music was pretty good in this, meaning, I guess I should say, it did its job. The cues were on point to help guide us as to how we should be feeling. Alan Silvestri, who is an incredible composer. He works a lot with Robert Zemeckis, who I love from the 80s. So such works as Who Framed Roger Rabbit, Romancing the Stone, Back to the Future, Forrest Gump, etc. Also, Predator, the Avengers films, and we talked about him last season in the Overboard episode because he composed the music for Overboard. So there we go. Award-wise, we do get a Young Artist Award for Ethan Embry's starring role here, which is interesting. Yeah, he was good. I mean, sure, why not? I do like Ethan Embry as an actor. I just don't know. He was fine. He did his job in that we hated him at first, and we did warm up to him by the end. So there you go, Ethan Embry. This movie had a budget. Okay, so this is perhaps why they haven't bothered keeping this movie on streaming. I feel like it was on streaming like even last year around Thanksgiving or 2 years ago, but it isn't at least available in the US to stream. Partially maybe because it had a budget of $17 million and it only grossed $4.6 million worldwide. Yikes, right? So we'll talk about a little bit of fun poked at that by some of the actors in this. We'll get to that in some of the trivia. I kind of just skipped over the IMDb. It is a 6.5. So despite it doing poorly at the box office, it is good. Like, it's not a dumpster fire of a movie. 6.5, I think I would probably agree with that. That seems like a fair rating. It's a good movie. It's not a great movie, but it's a fun watch for Thanksgiving. We open with a very fancy party filled with snobby rich people. And I love how they show us what we're supposed to think about these people. For example, there's a mounted lion head in one of the rooms, which I feel is a very purposeful choice to show us what kind of people they are at this party. And so they're all very snooty and snobby and classist, and these are these people. So Dutch is there with his girlfriend, and we're supposed to be seeing that he is just a regular Joe. He doesn't quite fit in. But so we're endeared to him partially because of that, because we're immediately shown that we don't really like these people. And he stands up to the very smug Reed, like the ex-husband so Michael McDonald, or not Michael McDonald, Christopher McDonald playing Reed. He plays this type of part perfectly. So we're endeared to Dutch. And now we cut to, so also Reed tells the ex-wife, oh, you'll have to tell Doyle I can't take him for Thanksgiving. I have to go to London for work or something along those lines. And she's sort of like, well, you can tell him yourself, but if he can't be bothered to do that. So Dutch offers to go pick him up. And he's like, oh, this is great. Everybody loves me. A road trip is all it takes. We end up being best friends by the end. Don't worry. It'll be a great bonding moment. So the ex-girlfriend's skeptical because I think she knows her kid very much takes after his dad. And we see that then because we cut to Doyle at school, who is very much a mini Reed, but somehow even worse because in kid form, it reminded me of the annoying kid from Over the Top. Now more on this in a bit, but you just like squinty eye at him, you know, sometimes when you do that, like about people, or you're just like, ugh, how is this person so awful? But he just has this air of superiority on him. His worldview is such that he equates being born into money with class and therefore better than everyone else, especially the working class. They are so beneath him. He is the type of kid, we see him threatening to get people fired if they don't do what he wants. I'll get my dad to call so-and-so and have you fired because of who his dad is. So it's Thanksgiving weekend. All his friends have now gone home. Someone has already come to pick them up. We see him is at the school by himself. So there's a janitor in a room. There's a trash can and he's kind of sweeping up. He's cleaning up. And we see Doyle just go, just to be a dick, kick over the trash can to have to make this janitor then pick it up again right in front of him as he's cleaning. Just to be a dick. Now, we also see that all the kids aren't this way. So this isn't the kind of school that, it is a boarding school, so I'm sure there's a fair amount of privilege and some attitudes that can sometimes go along with that. But the other kids we see kind of be normal and they're kind. They're even inviting him to come, have Thanksgiving with him. So they're not shitheads. And even, I think one of them even says something about how hateful Doyle is for no reason. So we see at the beginning, we're endeared to Dutch at O'Neill. So we're setting up this dichotomy of how this road trip is going to go, right? We see the kid is like beyond a bratty, privileged prick of a kid. So that's who we are. The other thing I wondered, though, since we see him by himself, when they meet, it starts with Doyle. It looks like he's walking home from class. He's in his uniform and he has his textbooks with him, but it's Thanksgiving break. There's no class. So I feel like that was a mistake. But I don't know, for whatever reason, he's walking to his dorm and Dutch is already in his room. But his back is, we can't see his face. It's just, you can see that there's a man there. And so Doyle mistakes Dutch for his dad at first, even though he knew that his dad bailed and that Dutch was coming to pick him up. I think he just maybe had hope that his dad changed his mind. So Dutch is trying to score points with his girlfriend by offering to pick up her kid, bond, road trip from, they're in Georgia is where the school is. And they're going to head to Chicago. Of course, we're going to Chicago. This is Hughes territory for Thanksgiving. Now I would like to go into a little bit of a deep dive into why I think this movie reminds me of another movie. About 10 minutes in, I out loud to myself said, is Dutch an over-the-top ripoff? Because Over the Top, I want to say was like, what, 86, 87? Somewhere in there. This is 91. So Hughes had said he didn't want to direct it because it was so similar to Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, but I thought it was so similar to Over the Top. First of all, I love Over the Top. Second of all, let me make my case for why I think Dutch is an over-the-top ripoff. We have an unknown father figure here that picks up a very bratty private/military school kid because it would be a good bonding experience. We have a road trip with lots of mishaps and shenanigans that over time bring these two closer, and they do actually bond and learn from each other over the course of the movie. And we have a hoity father or grandfather that gets in the way and or makes things worse. We have a kid that the movie purposefully portrays as the shittiest, brattiest, classist, rich kid attitude at first. But of course, we warm up to later by the end of the movie, as does the father figure. We get to kind of a fish out of water, greasy style diner with the food. And the kid is disgusted by both the food as well as the patrons of said diner. We have a scene where the two fight over the radio knob, over the windows. There are so many things about this that are straight out of Over the Top. You have to rewatch Dutch to probably see it, but do so. Please rewatch both movies in succession and then let me know if you agree or disagree with my take there. Okay, that's that. We'll move on from the over-the-top ripoff conversation. Okay, I know I do love Ed O'Neill, so I'm giving him so much. If it wasn't Ed O'Neill in this, I don't know if I would like this movie as well, but I do find him extremely charming. But he's like, this is 91 and he's not this kid's father, even though he's trying to suck up to his girlfriend by picking this kid up. He is not babying this kid. He's like trying to take him down a peg with guidance, but also kind of giving it to him a little bit. Like he does need to take him down a peg. And so there are a few lines that I found very memorable that I kind of chuckled at. And one of them is he says to the kid, because Doyle threatens Dutch in some way. And Dutch says, "You're about as worrisome as a cloudy day." I had never heard that before, and I think I'm going to use it. I like it. I like that a lot. But now we're getting into the mishaps. They're on the road, right? Wherever they stop. I think they're in Tennessee, where fireworks must be legal year-round, because they stop to get gas maybe or something from a store, and there's a fireworks, like a giant fireworks store, and he goes in and he comes out with a grocery bag full of fireworks, and he's all excited, probably thinking, oh, what, 12, 13-year-old kid doesn't love this kind of thing? But of course, the kid is unimpressed, and he's like, isn't that illegal? Again, over the top vibes. But he's like, well, not in Tennessee. So then they go somewhere out, like in the middle of the country, and there's like an entire scene of the fireworks, and it's not entertaining in the slightest. So I think that was a big miss. There were other scenes I feel like they could have expanded on that were actually funny. This wasn't. It went on for a very long time, and it just wasn't that funny. There's some ballsiness happening with Ed O'Neill's character, kind of not being mean, but like, oh, kid, you think you're tough, let me tell you, or you think you're special because of this, that, or the other. Let me tell you about that. This would never happen today, but there's this game of chicken of sorts that's super ballsy where they must know. Again, this is before you could see on like Google Maps how far away you are from a motel. And I highly doubt they had reservations, but he knew they were coming upon a town that they must have planned to stay at, just like a little roadside motel. But they're in the car and he's fed up and he's like, fine, you think you're so whatever. Fine, I'll meet you at the motel. Walk. So he kicks him out on the highway, like this kid, and it's snowing, it's winter out. And he actually kicks this kid out of the car and says he can walk the rest of the way in a motel. And I think that did actually knock this brat down a peg. But of course, you could tell he was worried once he got to the motel. He kept looking out the window and stuff. But this is no cell phones, nothing. Like, pretty ballsy. Like, what happens if this kid dies on the way to the motel or something? But it's a comedy movie from the early 90s, so it is what it is. But the game of chicken then comes because the kid does get back to the motel and he's pissed, but it's like he needs to get his bag out of the car or something. So he takes Dutch's keys to get his bag out of the car. And of course, he steals the car and he parks it in the middle of the icy road. It's wintry and it's icy. A semi-truck driver rams through the car, like pushes it over an embankment into a ditch. And so Dutch and the truck driver are completely freaking out. They're frantically searching, looking for the kid. Well, of course, the kid had already they didn't kill this kid. He'd already gotten out of the car, but he did that on purpose. He parked the car in the middle of the road knowing that someone would come and hit it or whatnot. I don't even know. Maybe they swerved or something. But he did this. He had already gotten out, and he says something to the effect of, I don't recall his words, but essentially, I did that to get back at you. Like, that'll teach you or something. So then we see Dutch paying the truck driver essentially to avoid police. He's like, oh, this kid, I don't want any police trouble or whatever. So he just pays off the truck driver. The police do come, of course, but they had kind of concocted some sort of story that would prevent anyone from getting into trouble. So we see that happening. And my thought was like, oh my God, this kid is a psychopath for doing this. And Dutch more or less tells him as such, like, you need to grow up and think outside of yourself for a second, kid. Someone could have gotten killed by your little prank here. That's so not cool. This is serious business. You don't do that kind of stuff. So now they don't have a car. Okay. They don't have any luck hitchhiking. So now we see them in a Greyhound bus to the next stop. Doyle he has some fancy, expensive shoes on in 91. That was kind of a trope. His shoes get stolen, or I should say, just like some young adults basically bully him out of them, or they just take them and they're bullied away. So that was a little scene. And then wherever they are, they must be near a store or a gas station. And these girls in that sports car see them and feel bad for them because they're rehearsing. Ed O'Neill is kind of trying to convince him how to like be pathetic looking. He's like, you're a kid. That's how we're going to get somebody to pick us up. And these girls see that and do take pity on them. They're like, oh yeah, we're headed to wherever for Thanksgiving to see our families. And they say that they are call girls. They say that they're prostitutes. And they're like, oh, and we also do some dancing for some extra money. And they were just in some city for some show, expo, whatever, to make some dough as call girls. And they're headed back for Thanksgiving. And the driver, she's way more street smart. The other one seems kind of innocent. And she's in back with the kid. And Ed O'Neill is in the passenger seat. And he fell asleep. So the driver steals his wallet. She tries to take his ring. He has a pinky ring on, but she couldn't get that. Well, then they go to a gas station wherever the next town is. They're going to stretch their legs, go grab something to eat. But of course, what happens? The girls, of course, ditch them at this gas station. So now Dutch and Doyle don't have money because the wallet got stolen, and they don't have any of their things. Their bags, their luggage got stolen as well. Oh, one more thing. So throughout the movie, a nice little touch is that Doyle, I have a hard time saying that his name is Doyle because that doesn't seem like a kid name to me. Also, Dutch and Doyle, it's just, I get them kind of confused a little bit. But on purpose throughout the movie, Dutch calls Doyle by the wrong name. And I feel like he doesn't even correct him. It's just kind of funny. So he calls him Dale, Dwight, Dobbsy, etc. And again, like the way that Ed O'Neill delivers it, he really pulls it off excellently. So kudos to Ed O'Neill on this. He really was like by far my favorite part of the movie. So now we get to the crux. They're at this gas station. Now what are we going to do? Are we going to call your mother? You know, they're basically planning to like go their separate ways, despite the fact that one is an adult and one is a kid. They really have it out. There's sad music playing. And Doyle goes in to the gas station. He tries to call his dad, who, remember, said that he couldn't spend Thanksgiving with him because he got called to London for business. Well, Doyle learns now here that he lied because we're shown the scene where the phone is ringing and he's in bed with a woman who we assume is maybe his girlfriend or something. She answers the phone. So he is at home and he can hear his dad like in the background. So he knows that he lied now. So this prompts Doyle to make up with Dutch. And then there's a very odd moment. Again, this wouldn't be in a movie now, where they bond over the fact that Doyle gets horny when he was with the prostitute girl. This is like a 12 or 13-year-old kid who like fell asleep on this girl's boobs, you know, but she's at least 18. Like she's an adult and he's a child. And I know this isn't his dad. I don't know if that's a thing men bond over. It was almost like, oh, your first horniness? I don't know, but they bond over this somehow. It's weird. Maybe it wasn't in 91, but I found it really strange. Anyway, one of the call girls got him going. Okay, so now we see them pulled together. They've made up. They're like, okay, we're going to do this. We're two capable dudes. We're going to get the rest of the way home. Now we see them stowing away on the back of a semi. And then wherever the semi goes, there's a yard where there's security guards and they get caught by these security guys at this loading area for the semi. And these cops actually beat them up. It's kind of odd. Like I don't know, I guess they're trespassing, but Jesus, like it's a bit much. And they also, because they're assuming that they're homeless people. And this is the first of a couple series where we see other people treat them poorly because they think they're homeless and therefore somehow less worthy of kindness. Which was probably done on purpose because this is a Thanksgiving movie. So we're supposed to be reminded of and be grateful for what we have and to be helpful to people who are less fortunate than us, and that, oh, these people have a hard time. It's a hard life. We'll more on that in a bit. So the kid tries to use some of his karate. We early kind of see that he really takes his karate practice seriously, or maybe it's Taekwondo. I'm not entirely certain. And then they team up and have a ruse. The kid is like loony and that his head is telling him to do crazy things, and that these police officers, again, like bumbling police officers, should be scared of that. But they do finally get away by pulling the BB gun out from the beginning of the movie when Doyle actually shoots Dutch in the butt with a BB gun. And it took me a while to realize what it was because it looks like a gun, like a handgun. And I didn't learn until later in the movie. I didn't know what it was. I didn't know what it was shooting. I thought, I don't know, air. I honestly, I don't know anything about guns, but I always thought BB guns were like rifle style, a la A Christmas Story. You're going to shoot your eye out, Ralphie. But this looked like a pistol. And I guess I didn't realize BB guns came that way. But apparently they do. They still have this gun. So it looks like a real gun probably. And so that allows them to get away. A lot of crimes happening in this movie that are just gone unreported. So now, because they got beat up, this kid is bleeding from a cut on his head. He's bleeding, but they've been through a lot, so they don't look great. They're dirty. Their clothes are kind of ripped and the kid is bleeding. They go into this restaurant and immediately you can see everybody turn and look at them like, oh, you don't belong here. So they're quickly shooed out because the waitress assumes that they're homeless and therefore not welcome in this proper establishment. And Dutch is like, hey, no worries. We'll get out of your hair. But can the kid go use the bathroom to wash his face? He's bleeding. But again, no sympathy because, don't be offensive to the diners that are patroning this establishment. But there is a couple of diners who do take pity on them. And we then see that this couple drives the pair to a shelter where they eat and sleep for the night. Here is kind of where we're seeing a little more. We've seen some improvement, some work done on both parts. They're starting to work together a little bit. They're starting to warm up to each other a little bit. And here at the homeless shelter is where we see Doyle come around and start to see things through. Now he's had an experience that a homeless person might have for a day anyway. And so he is really possessive a little bit or protective of their eating dinner. And he has a bread roll with his dinner. And this little girl, probably like 4 or 5, we see her kind of try and take it. And he slaps her hand away and grabs the roll. And then he thinks for a second. And then he gives it to her because he realizes in that moment she is a real homeless person that needs it, and he doesn't. He'll have a great meal tomorrow when he's at his mansion. That's a turning point too, where we see compassion from Doyle. And then that night, so it's time to go to bed. It's just a big room of cots, and of course, Dutch's cot keeps breaking and waking everybody up, so everybody's annoyed by him. But the little girl who tried to take the role, her mother, the homeless woman mentioned when we were talking about who the players were, L. Scott Caldwell, she's having a conversation, kind of helping us as an audience as well as Doyle get to the point of the whole purpose of Thanksgiving. Oh, I bet you really miss your mom. Is that your dad? So he just kind of says, oh, yeah, that he tells her that that's his dad. And she inquires where the mom is. And so they start talking about that. And this gets Doyle to realize that despite his exterior where he kind of hates his mom, he's the spoiled brat. He wants to be with his rich dad, and he doesn't appreciate his mom throughout the movie. And so the mom feels like this kid might hate her, and he doesn't want her to think that now. Whereas before he didn't care. He was just all about himself. He didn't really care about other people. So now he's realizing how much he actually does appreciate and love his mother. And then the next morning, we see a really shitty station wagon type car. It's really beaten up, but it's driving along the highway. And we see that Doyle and Dutch are in the back seat, so that somebody is giving them a ride. And it's those people. Woman says, she's telling Doyle, oh, my husband lost his job. We've been here for about a week. We were living in our car. It's just tough out there, blah, blah, blah. So we get a little bit of their backstory, and they're giving them a ride in their car that they were living in to somewhere. We realize they're on the outskirts of Chicago. So they're almost home. Yay. This whole movie, we just hear Dutch say, yes, I'm working class. I work for my money. I didn't inherit my money. I actually work for it. He takes a lot of heat from Doyle for being, quote unquote, working class. But we don't know what he does until now when we drive past a sign as they're approaching Chicago that says Dutch Dooley Construction. So now we know what Dutch does for a living. We're getting to Chicago now, and this homeless family literally drops them off at their mansion. I can't imagine what they were thinking. Now, granted, we do see that Dutch offers to give the husband, a job. He's like, oh, call the office on Monday, gives him a business card or something. But hey, how about a little reward or some gas money maybe for driving you from a homeless shelter, and we don't have a home, to your literal mansion? I was kind of surprised that was just it. I sort of thought there'd be a bigger, or maybe that there should have been like a bigger help to these people than just, oh, call my office on Monday. I mean, where are they going to go for Thanksgiving? Like, they now still have nowhere to go on Thanksgiving. Like, maybe they should have invited them in to have dinner with them, perhaps. That seems like a missed opportunity, in my view, for a Thanksgiving movie and to show that you've grown as a human. Anyway, now it's Thanksgiving. They're in the mansion. Now the dad shows up. he's saying that now he wants to take Doyle to spend the day with him, but Doyle no longer is enamored by him because he lied, and he gives his mom this huge hug. So things are going well. I just feel like the wrap up of the movie was very quick, in like quick cuts. Like, okay, we got to get this in. We got to get this in. We got to get this in. So they make it home. The kid loves his mom, not so enamored by his dad anymore. We see the dad be a total prick, and that Doyle chooses to spend Thanksgiving with his mom and Dutch. And Dutch finally gets Doyle back, because remember, throughout the movie he kept saying, I'm gonna get you back for that BB gun thing. I'm gonna get you. So at the Thanksgiving dinner table, he does end up getting him back, but the scene again felt rushed or not well written or thought out. It was just like they shoved a bunch of things in the last 5 minutes of the movie, and I think that was a mistake, because he says to the kid, there's something very special for your mom in the pocket of my coat. Why don't you go get that? So clearly we're thinking as an audience, it's an engagement ring. And the mom probably thinks that too. She's like, oh, because they cut to her face. She's like, oh, what is it? What is it? But that was just a ruse to get him up from the table so that Dutch could actually shoot him with the BB gun. And the mom is just totally laughing along. Ha 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 ha, you're shooting my child with a BB gun. And I guess I don't get an engagement ring out of this whole scenario. And then credits roll along with some extra fireworks scene footage. How we talk about in these John Hughes movies, a lot of times I do let the credits completely roll, because there many times are either a credits scene or a post-credits scene. This did have a credits footage of just more. It was we just have extra footage of the fireworks scene that wasn't funny in the first place, so we're just going to shove that at the end. So it was not necessary or funny in any way. So I was let down by the end of the movie. There were really good parts about it, but I think they rushed to conclude the movie with some missed opportunities, as I mentioned. So that's Dutch. That's the end of Dutch. In Australia, and I think other parts of the world, elsewhere internationally, but definitely in Australia, the movie was not called Dutch. It was called Driving Me Crazy, which, I don't know. That's fine. They're both fine. Dutch doesn't give you any indication as to what the movie's about either, so they're fine. I guess there was originally plans to do a sequel of this movie, which clearly did not materialize, obviously. I did see some disappointing news, and this is not the first time we hear stuff like this about John Hughes, but in an interview, Ed O'Neill states that during the shooting of the movie, John Hughes was calling him every day, like they were best friends. Ed was even invited to John's house for dinner. They were supposed to do other movies together. But as soon as the movie underperformed at the box office, John Hughes never spoke to Ed O'Neill ever again, or the director, Peter Faiman. What the hell, John? And, I had indicated earlier that there were some, because of the poor box office. I think Ed O'Neill, again, I do really like him, but this shows that he's a really good sport, because there was mention of this movie in passing in an episode of Married with Children during an in-flight movie to London as a joke to the film's failure. Obviously, Ed was in Married with Children, star of that show. And then similarly, showing a good sport, the film was shown in another episode of Married with Children titled Dial B for Virgin from 94, where main characters Ed O'Neill and Katie Seagal were in a video store and looked briefly at a rack that showed a poster of the film with a sign over O'Neill's face that said free video.
Now, all we have to do is find one movie that we can both watch.
Hey, here's one. Die, scum sucking pig, die. Ray Walston and Sherman Hemsley in a haunted house, Peg.
Al, you have rented that 25 times already.
It's good.
How about this? 4 weddings and a funeral.
That's kind of like 5 of the same thing, isn't it? Hey, how about WrestleMania bloopers?
You could have taped our honeymoon for that.
So I love those kind of things where he can poke fun at it. So good on you, Ed O'Neill. Oh yeah, so Doyle uses martial arts in the movie. And although in real life, at the time of filming, Ed O'Neill had actually been training in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. O'Neill received his black belt from the Gracie Jiu-Jitsu Academy in 2007. Did you guys know that? I don't know if I did. So Doyle tells Dutch that he is a high brown belt in karate, but Ed O'Neill in real life has a black belt. So anyway, that's kind of fun. Another little tidbit is that, so Doyle's last name is Standish. So Reed and Doyle Standish. And the mom, what was her name? Natalie was the mom's name. So their last name is Standish. And there is another character in the John Hughes universe with the last name Standish. Anyone? Bueller. It's from The Breakfast Club, whose last name was Standish. It's never said in the movie, I don't think, but it is in the script. And her character name listed in the credits, Claire. Claire's last name is Standish. So a little tidbit there. Now, in terms of casting, we always talk about potential alternatives here. And apparently John Candy was the first choice to play Dutch Dooley, which would have been stupid because it literally would have been Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. Apparently Robert De Niro was also considered, which at this time he was still doing a lot of very serious roles. And I know later he would do more of this type of movie, a la Meet the Parents. But yeah, that's interesting. So I think he could have done it. It was just, I think he was still, doing his like mobster stuff at this time. I guess Mel Gibson turned it down. Other considered Tim Allen, Tom Hanks, Jim Belushi, who was in another Hughes and Curly Sue from 91. Robin Williams, who was in Flubber, John Goodman, and Bill Murray were all considered to play Dutch. So that's it for the trivia. I do want to hear from you guys. What do you think about, I know it's a lesser known movie. It is a Thanksgiving movie, clearly overshadowed by the far more favorable and well-known Planes, Trains, and Automobiles that we will be covering soon. But let me know what you guys think about Dutch. I did enjoy it. It wasn't great. It wasn't the funniest movie I've ever seen, but I did enjoy the rewatch. So I would recommend rewatching Dutch. It's a great Thanksgiving movie and to kind of see people grow as humans. So that's kind of a nice little bow for Thanksgiving. And let's see. You can, like I said, send me an email, let me know. Also, I want to know if you think it's similar to Over the Top like I did. But that's it for this episode of Dutch from 1991. Thank you for revisiting it with me. Please, like I said, send me an email and get in touch with me. Check out the Facebook page if you're not over there, YouTube, rate, review, do all of the things that I always ask you incessantly to do. Just throw me a bone, maybe. Do it for me as a Thanksgiving treat for me, please. But until next time, be kind, rewind.